Thank you. I know you guys see this and you probably have a lot of questions, but let me start off with a couple of questions. How many of you guys, and you guys can raise your hands, have had a crush on someone? You know, when you walk in the room, it's just everything's like dandelions and roses, and when they walk in the room, you know, nothing can bring you down, right? It's just beautiful. Now, how many of you guys have had a friend who just, their one goal in life is to mess with you? Has that ever led to you becoming married at age 15? No. Okay, cool. Then I guess I am alone. So let me give you a bit of context. Let me take you back to my freshman year in high school, the spring of 2019. So every year, our school would, and I think it still does, would go out to the community and serve for one day. And this year, we were going to go to Habitat for Humanity, which is a thrift store for home essentials, basically. And I knew from experience at another school that, you know, you're going to have a lot of free time in case you get the work done to bond with your class or whatever. So I packed in my string bag a lunch and a sketchbook with a half-completed drawing of my secret crush at the time, Cassie. I think we can know where this is going. And so, was I a talented artist? Let's see. I don't think so. But it's fair to say that this could be the facilitation to Cassie possibly liking me back. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Cassie, right? I think you guys should know. She had this great sense of humor and these great brown eyes. And just to top it all off, the best way of showing up at the worst times imaginable to keep things interesting. And so let's just get back to the day of the service project, right? We're going out and we're with a smaller group of people, and I'm with my best friend at the time, Nolan. Now, he's the guy, like I mentioned earlier, whose one goal in life is to mess with me. And so as I set my bag down to get to work, he asked me who my crush is. And I'm ignoring him and, you know, eventually get silent. And I should have had the forethought at the time to realize, you know, maybe I shouldn't leave my bag with my kind of prized possession unattended. But as a well-discerning 15-year-old at the time, I was like, oh, I'll trust my good buddy and pal not to rummage through my personal stuff. Wrong move. Because in the midst of the silence, I turn around and there he is, reaching in my bag, pulling out my sketchbook, and of all the pages he could open to, he turns to this. Yeah. So I take the sketchbook from him, and he's like, wait, that smile, is that Cassie? Is that the girl you like? I'm like, And before I can answer, remember how I said that Cassie had this knack for showing up at the worst times available? Yeah, so she's running up, she's like, oh. And she starts laughing like that, very kind of maniacal or whatever. And she then sees my tortured face, and she's like, and starts, you know, to walk off or whatever. You know, as if that's going to do some damage control and kind of save me from the mortification I'm facing. And so I'm watching her as she's going because, you know, I like her. And so I turn back and I'm like, oh, Nolan's probably working or whatever. You know, he's probably putting the nails away. And that's when I see him grinning at me like an idiot. He knows who my crush is. Crap. So, strangely enough, he doesn't mention it for about the next hour. We go off to lunch and passes as normal. And after lunch, it's where the beginning of the end starts to happen. He actually, he approaches me with a ring. And he says, you should take this and propose to Cassie. I said, no, because I like her. And this would make things so awkward that she would probably never talk to me again. He's like, no, you don't get it. Girls like funny things. And this would be an epic funny prank. I was like, no, that's not how it works. And he says, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to tell Cassie you like her, and she won't get the $10. It's like, oh, you tricky jerk. So I'm back against the wall, and I try to argue some more, but, you know, he's not taking no for an answer, and this guy likes to break boundaries like there's no tomorrow. So I figure, you know, maybe, God, this will be the moment that, you know, it's like the movie magic. You know, the strings rise, the music gets more dramatic, and I get the girl, right? So I'm like, fine, take the ring. I walk up, and by the time I get to her in the middle of the store, from Nolan, he's gathered everyone around to watch, unbeknownst to her, and I'm seeing everyone. I'm like, well, great, no pressure. So, and just to mention, there's no teachers around at this moment. I don't know where they are. So I get down on one knee, I take out the ring, I say, hey, Cassie. She looks down at me, confused. I'm like, will you marry me? And at that moment, I knew something just went horribly wrong. It's not that she said no. Guys, she didn't say no. I think it has something to do more with the fact that she ran away screaming to the nearest bathroom and slammed the door shut. And with the turning of the bolt, my hopes and dreams of a future ever with her was locked behind that door as well. And it's silent for a few seconds. And then uproarious laughter. And I'm not talking a couple of people. I'm talking like the total of the 12 to 14 students there, including Nolan himself. And so, he comes up to me, trying to comfort me, while chuckling at the same time. I don't know what that was supposed to do. But he's like, maybe we should get back to work. And I say, oh, yeah, you think? Let's get back to work. So we get back to work, and I'm putting nails away or whatever, and, moving some wood. And then he comes up to me about 30 minutes later, and he says, hey, that went pretty terrible, don't you think? And I was like, yeah. And he says, well, Cassie doesn't actually hate you. And I said, well, her running away to the bathroom? I don't think she had to go to the bathroom, okay? And he says, no, she just didn't know how to handle that, situation. Like, you know how high school girls are? And I was like, hey, man, you can't say that in 2019, okay? And so he's like, no, I know how to resolve this, okay? I know what to do. And I said, what? He's like, you should get married to her. Married? Yeah. I think we got to get back to work. I think this is getting to your head a little bit. But also, where's the minister? We need one. Never mind the age factor. And I'm not kidding. This guy pulls out his phone. He starts swiping through. He's like, check this out. And he shows me his phone. It's an email from an online ordination website confirming that Nolan is, among other things, an ordained minister. Like, what was this kid not prepared for? And so I'm trapped. I'm already facing, he's not going to give me the $10 if I don't do this, so he's just going to, milk this for all it's worth. So I say, fine. And as we're walking over to the couch showroom, I start to get cold feet. I'm like, I'm 15. Divorce rates are pretty high this time of the century, and I can't afford alimony if I, get divorced. So, and I run for the hills. And I eventually get jumped. And I get brought back to the couch showroom, which I run away from again, and I manage to run around, fake everybody out, head back to the couch showroom, hide in between a couple of couches. And at that moment, I realized maybe I shouldn't have disclosed the top secret identity of my crush to my best friend. And that's when I hear this little voice kind of above me saying, Stosh, is that you? Realizing that I had been pouring over my thoughts out loud for the whole world to hear. So I have no idea who this is. But lo and behold, it's Cassie, the master of unexpected appearances. But she doesn't act really awkward. She actually explains to me. She says, hey, this is a joke, right? So we could just get married. And they won't bother us about it, right? The more we prolong this, the more they're going to bother us about it. And I was like, wait, she wants to get married. Oh my goodness, my crush. She wants to get married. No matter the reason, she wants to get married. Wow. And so I'm like, I've won. Let's do this. Let's go. So, I'm going to play it cool, though. So I wait for everyone to get back in, and me and Cassie we're standing side by side, and Nolan, the ordained minister, the holy man that he is forging both Cassie and my signature onto a PNG of a marriage certificate. Right there, that is the actual document. So it's all legal, right? I think. And that's when it occurs to me, right? What do all weddings end in? A kiss. I get to kiss my crush. And I get $10 out of it. Oh, glorious day. And so, he runs us through the vows, Nolan does, and we both say, I don't. And then Nolan says, you may kiss the bride. I'm like, hot dog. And so I'm like, this is my moment. I smile. I turn towards her. I smile gently for effect, and I lean in, and then bam, insecurity strikes. I stick out my hand, and we shake like professional bankers. Not exactly to plan, but everyone clapped, and I guess, today had already gone weird enough, so whatever. Now that day, we only did about an hour of community service, and we did other activities as pictured here. And as you can see, that's my friend Nolan chasing us with a tree, threatening to bonk us if we don't hold hands. We can see how that turned out. So that was a couple years ago, and that leads to the question of, did you ever get paid? Not until November 25th of last year. Now, let me tell you, this happened again in 2019. And I don't know whether it was for some hush money, which as you guys can see was pretty ineffective, or my lenient interest rate, but I got an extra $5 out of the ordeal. So all of this comes down to why? Why am I giving a TEDx talk about this? What's the lesson? What is the takeaway? You might think, oh, it's to deal with embarrassment, right? Roll with the punches, But nah. The real lesson is here. When someone embarrasses you, make them regret they ever did so in the first place. I'm saying tell the story every chance you get, right? Make it your introduction story. Heck, write papers about it for college. And whenever you do something like this, tell the original people who embarrassed you, tell them about it. Drive them insane. Heck, give a TED talk about it. Anything goes. Because in the end, they're going to learn a lesson. And that lesson is, of course, they're going to embarrass people. Embarrassment's a fun thing to do. But they should be careful in choosing who they embarrass because they may never hear the end of it. After all, they may be dealing with an intellectual genius named Stosh Zasadny. Thank you.